Well, good morning. This is Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. It's just before noon Eastern Time, about 11:54 a.m. And this is an update based on the National Hurricane Center's 11 a.m. update that was issued less than an hour ago. There are some updates. We now have a hurricane. Hurricane Helene has winds of 80 miles per hour and is moving slowly to the northwest. It is starting to make that turn, and it is just kissing the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. They are rocking and rolling right now with very large waves and heavy winds. This is the look from the satellite picture, the GOES satellite, 22,300 miles up. Look at this storm. Look at the size of the storm. This is cirrus outflow, so it's already going into parts of southeastern Georgia. When you look up and see those cirrus clouds, yes, that's outflow from Helene. And you can see how much more mature it has gotten over the last 12 hours. Last night, we could tell it was starting to intensify. We could see circulation around a center. That has been covered by a central dense overcast. But the Hurricane Hunter aircraft have reported that there is an eye wall forming around this storm. It is somewhat open, so it's not totally together yet. But once that completes, we'll start to create that chimney effect, that evacuation of air that will create the eye. Well, this video is being produced for the All Hazards Consortium Sensitive Information Sharing Environment, so we can share data easily and quickly across private sector liaisons of state emergency operations centers, federal agencies, and also private sector owner-operators from the food, fuel, communications, transportation, medical, logistics, supply sectors, so we can all be on the same page at the same time. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this particular sector and show you the mesoscale sector. This is the close-in sector. Every minute we're getting an image in from the GOES satellites. Phenomenal satellite, high resolution. Some of the state-of-the-art technology up there orbiting in space to keep us all safe. You can see the circulation. Here is Cancun here, and they are getting rocked right now. The center of the storm is just off the coast. So the Hurricane Center got it right where it's going to be threading that needle throughout the Yucatan Strait and then beginning to turn to the north and then to the northeast. That's going to be headed towards the Big Bend in Florida. Now, one of the things that we're noticing, particularly with the National Hurricane Center, is that it was critical with how close Helene was coming to the Yucatan Peninsula. And I do have a radar data that I want to show you. This is from the Cancun radar, courtesy of Brian McNulty, University of Miami Rosenstiel School. And this is the radar. You can take a look at this. Look at the circulation approaching. And you can see the center of the storm right there. And it just misses. It's right off the very northeastern tip of the Yucatan Peninsula, and it is showing signs of maturing, that's for sure. Now, the radar data itself will be spurious and non-existent when it gets out into the Gulf of Mexico. However, we are able to monitor it with satellites, and that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to show you just quickly. This is GeoCollaborate, and I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on GeoCollaborate here because I want to get to some impacts. What I've done with GeoCollaborate is displayed what's called the sandwich product from the GOES satellite. It's a mixture, a blending of different wavelengths, so we can see exactly where the strongest convection or thunderstorms are in this storm. I've also overlaid the arrival time estimates of tropical storm force winds, and I'll leave that on for a couple of different images. I do want to take this full screen, though, so we can dive into it and start talking about what this information means. So I'll slide this up just a little bit. Here is Cancun right here. Here is the center of the storm within the latest Hurricane Center update. So they are getting rocked right now with hurricane force winds, 80-mile-per-hour winds. Is what Helene has currently, and the forecast is for it to strengthen rather rapidly. So So I'm going to go towards the north here, and you can see the tip of Cuba here under a tropical storm warning, hurricane warning for the Yucatan Peninsula right there around Cancun, and tropical storm warnings as well for Key West, the dry tortugas out here. And you can see the wind, the tropical storm force wind arrival time. This is the most likely time of arrival of Wednesday at 8 p.m. hitting the dry tortugas. That's tonight at 8 p.m. But as we move forward northward, you can see when the tropical storm force winds are expected to arrive in the southern part of Florida. So this is Thursday, tomorrow morning at 2 a.m., coming across the Florida Keys, and then continuing across the peninsula of Florida, including Miami. There is a tropical storm warning for the entire state, basically, of Florida. So tropical storm force winds of 39 to 74 miles per hour are expected throughout Florida. And there's a long fetch, I'll show you that in just a minute, coming off the Atlantic Ocean, where even storm surges are expected on the East Coast. So you see storm surge warnings are in effect across the entire Florida peninsula. And these different colors represent the different elevations of storm surge, the different heights of storm surge that are expected. Here in yellow, 3 to 5 feet of storm surge is expected, and that means 3 to 5 feet above normally dry ground. We'll zoom into this a little bit. So that includes Naples. Here is Naples, so there's going to be some inundation, 3 to 5 feet storm surge in Naples, and all the way up towards Port Charlotte, Cape Coral as well. I will turn off the satellite image here so we can talk a little bit more about the impacts and the cone. You can see the cone forecast from the National Hurricane Center. I'll zoom out here. Look how narrow it is. It's narrow because the confidence is high that the storm, the center of the storm, will move somewhere between these lines, these outer lines of the cone. It has nothing to do with impacts. Look when the tropical storm force winds are expected to arrive. Look, nobody is in the cone. So please dismiss the cone when it comes to you making decisions as to whether to evacuate, whether you're going to ride it out, where you're going to stage utility vehicles. It is not an indication of where damage might be or impacts. These are the impacts going on. So I'm going to dive a little bit further into the Sarasota and Bradenton areas. North of Port Charlotte, there is a storm surge warning in effect. So for the beaches of Sarasota, it looks like we'll have anywhere from 4 to 7 feet of storm surge expected in Manatee County. And that is expected to create inundation in several locations. As we move on north into Tampa Bay, we're talking about 5 to 8 feet of expected storm surge. That main storm surge is going to come when the hurricane is west of Tampa and then moves to the north of Tampa, because the backside winds are going to swing around and push in from the southwest and push that water from the Gulf of Mexico right into Tampa Bay. Those winds are going to be strong. I wouldn't be surprised if you see hurricane force wind gusts in the Tampa Bay area. There's nothing to block the wind coming off of the Gulf of Mexico. And the storm has been forecast now to make landfall as a Category 3 with 125 mile per hour winds. That's up a notch from the previous Hurricane Center forecast, and some of the hurricane models are going higher than that. So you need to pay close attention to what's happening. Each update from the National Hurricane Center. The next one after this will be at 5 p.m. this afternoon. We'll be back on with the video at around 6 o'clock. Once we update all the data within GeoCollaborate. So we're talking about Tampa Bay, 5 to 8 feet of storm surge. That's going to inundate a lot of areas. And then as we get north of Tampa Bay, this is Pasco County. We're also Hernando County and also Citrus County, where Homosassa Springs is. There is a life-threatening storm surge that is forecast here. 6 to 10 feet of storm surge within Hernando County and also Pasco County, 6 to 10 feet. Where Homosassa Springs is, where the beautiful manatees go to hang out in the winter and the springtime, storm surges expected to be 10 to 15 feet. Nobody can survive that kind of storm surge if you stay by the coastline. And please follow local advisories and warnings to evacuate. Anyone who's staging vehicles for utility response, make sure that you're aware of where the tropical storm force winds are forecast, when they're expected to arrive, and how long they're expected to last. Response can't happen. You can't raise those bucket trucks with winds of tropical storm force or higher. The probability of this storm surge being 10 to 15 feet continues, and the forecast continues all the way around here into Franklin County, Florida, just east of Eastport. And then it goes down slightly to 6 to 10 feet. This is life-threatening storm surge expected here. Now I'm going to back out a little bit and talk about the arrival of the tropical storm force winds for our response crews. Mutual assistance is happening from many, many states that have been requested by Florida, Georgia, and also North Carolina. The states of Florida, Georgia, and Kentucky have declared states of emergency. That's the information we have so far, and we'll keep updating that throughout the SISE hub and the Signal app as well. So Thursday at 8 a.m., tropical storm force winds will be arriving in Sarasota, Bradenton. They will have arrived in Port Charlotte between 2 and 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. The storm is going to be moving at a forward speed that's going to be pretty quick. So it'll diminish how long the winds last, but the wind field for this storm is going to be very large. This is the wind threat for this landfalling storm, Helene, and this has been updated as of the 11 o'clock advisory. And I want to go over these colors for you. We had some questions about what do these colors mean, and I have that defined here in just a few minutes as well. But this purple area going in towards including Tallahassee, there is a strong likelihood of this storm producing winds greater than 110 miles per hour. This is the likelihood of winds greater than 110 miles per hour, stretching into southern Georgia. Look at Valdosta. Valdosta, Georgia, has a good probability that winds will exceed, and I want to make sure I have this correctly here, winds will exceed 74 to 110 miles per hour. 74 to 110 miles per hour. And so this is where that extends. Valdosta, you're in that area. Albany, Georgia, Macon, Georgia. You're up to the north a little bit where winds might be a little bit calmer, but wind gusts 74 to 110 miles per hour in this area in red. Moving up into the orange area, all of this to the east in Florida, towards Jacksonville, but not getting to Jacksonville quite yet, but just touching Gainesville and over towards Dothan, Alabama, also Columbus, Georgia, and up to Atlanta, Georgia. We're talking about winds of 58 to 73 miles per hour. 58 to 73 miles per hour are likely in this area, which is going to bring a lot of trees down. Tallahassee, the city of trees, is going to have a massive tree destruction when this storm makes landfall. And as we extend to the north into northern Georgia, Athens, Georgia, Augusta, Georgia, and into South Carolina, this yellow indicates tropical storm force winds are likely, including Pensacola in Florida. And those winds are 39 to 57 miles per hour. 39 to 57 miles per hour. The orange area, I just want to clarify, is 58 to 73 miles per hour. 58 to 73. I just want to make sure I didn't say it was higher than that. 58 to 73 tropical storm force winds in Atlanta. And then in the yellow, 39 to 57 miles per hour. So that includes North Charleston. Winds are going to be coming off the ocean. A very long fetch here over the ocean from the circulation around this large storm. Winds could reach tropical storm force all the way into Tennessee and southwestern North Carolina and western South Carolina. So we could be looking at a large swath of tree damage here, which means a heightened threat for tropical, for power outages and power interruptions. So I just want to look at this one more time and just let everybody know. In the purple area, we're talking about winds of greater than 110 miles per hour. Greater than 110 miles per hour. In the red, 74 to 110 miles per hour. In the orange, if you're in the area in orange, and we're advising crews not to stage anywhere in this area for response because of the impacts to critical infrastructure, 58 to 73 miles per hour. This should be connected as well here. I think this is just a little bit of a mistake. Now, in the yellow, 39 to 57 mile per hour winds. Now, here's the problem. The problem is that these winds are coming over areas which are going to be very saturated. Very saturated. I'm going to turn on the excessive rainfall forecast just for today. This is for today only, because we have a cold front, a trough of low pressure that's coming in, a deep trough that's creating storms and heavy rain in the area, including Atlanta, up towards Asheville, North Carolina. In this red area, there is a high likelihood of excessive rainfall today. This is going to saturate the ground for when Helene makes landfall and comes up with another excessive rainfall chance. And so what I'm going to do here is turn off the excessive rainfall forecast for today and turn on the 3-day excessive rainfall forecast. So there goes today. This is the 3-day forecast for excessive rainfall. And I want you to look at this just for a moment. Anywhere in the red area is a high likelihood of flooding. Excessive rainfall causing impassable roads, washed out roads, and also water infiltrating into buildings is quite possible. Look at this area of purple. I'm going to zoom in here on this. This includes Asheville, North Carolina, close to Greenville, South Carolina, north of Athens, and north of Atlanta. This purple area is almost, it's a 75% chance likelihood that we are going to see excessive rains. 70%, excuse me, at least a 70% chance that excessive rains are going to fall in this area. So if you live in Asheville, if you live in Greenville, if you live in Atlanta and Athens, prepare. If you live in low-lying areas, prepare for flash flooding. It is likely to happen in this area. Once today passes with the storms and then the rains from Helene come up, there is going to be a large threat for excessive rainfall and flash flooding. It also extends in the red area as well. That is a likely area for excessive rains and also flash flooding. And the yellow area, there is a higher probability, non-zero probability. This probability is at least 15% that excessive rainfall will happen and create flooding. I'll back out here a little bit more so you can see it a little wider here. The green is a less likelihood chance. There's going to be a lot of dry air up here, kind of fighting away some of the moisture, but we do have a chance of rain in this green area come the weekend. But what we're focusing on, you can see I've superimposed slightly the forecast track of Helene, where it would be a depression over western Kentucky but getting absorbed in this big trough of low pressure that's going to be moving in. And that's going to enhance the rainfall in this area. That's why this is over here as well. So Arkansas, Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee. There are chances for excessive rain and flash flooding. Once again, if any trucks are going to be staging for power restoration, if anyone's going to be gathering, make sure you know the flood potential for the areas in which you'll be staging. Because these rainfall rates could be 3, sometimes 4 inches of rain per hour. And that could inundate. Remember, it takes 6 inches of rain, moving water, to knock over a human. A foot of rain, a foot of water can float cars away. And we'll probably be seeing a lot of inundated cars over the next 48 hours with the landfall of Helene over the next 72 hours as well. So I'm going to stop here. I'm just going to recap because I want to go over this flood risk one more time, and you can see it here. Inland impacts over the next 3 days. I've listed the states here that are under flood risk. Today, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Southern Virginia. That is from the cold front and storms that could pop up from the cold front. We had severe weather during the day yesterday just to the west, including in Tennessee. Thursday, the threat includes Florida, with the landfalling of Hurricane Helene right now forecast to be a Category 3 hurricane. It could be higher. Some of the models are forecasting rapid intensification and bringing this storm to a higher category, but the official forecast is what we base our decision making off of, and that is for a strong Cat 3 hurricane with winds of 125 miles per hour. So Thursday's flooding will be Florida, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Not the entire states that I mentioned, but you can see the graphic right there, and you can see which ones are really impacted here and what part of the states. On Friday, the flooding potential is Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and parts of southern West Virginia. If you're in those areas and you're responding from states and utilities, you're coming through those areas, be very vigilant as to how the rain intensity is accumulating in certain areas. Low-lying areas are likely to have road washed out. And if you're driving down the road, do not cross moving water across the road. The road could be gone. We saw this with potential tropical cyclone 8 in North Carolina when it came into the Wilmington area. Many streets looked like they just had puddles of water over them, and the roads were gone. Vehicles dropped right into those big, huge holes that were taken away by the rain. So that's the 3-day flood risk. I want to talk about the wind threat, recapping here as well. The wind threat today, this has been updated from the National Hurricane Center and the National Weather Service with the 11 o'clock update. The wind threat is serious in Florida, including Tallahassee, where they have not had a Category 3 hurricane impact them in history. They've had Category 1 storms in the past, but they've never been hit by a Category 3, according to the mayor of Tallahassee. And so this threat is going to move up into Georgia, into central Georgia, then northern Georgia, and also continue across the entire state of Florida with tropical storm warnings. There's also storm surge advisory and warning from Myrtle Beach southward to Savannah, Georgia, and down towards Jacksonville, with wind coming up off the ocean from the eastern edge of the storm. Folks, this is going to be a large and dangerous storm. We're watching it develop right now. We're going to be providing updates. We typically do our updates during the daytime after the Hurricane Center issues theirs, so we can provide more details to help the movement of fleet utility vehicles, the sharing of data and information to private sector partners, including grocery chains, big logistic operations, and also food, fuel, medical supply folks. So we're doing the best we can to give you the latest information. We'll be back with another update later today, probably around 6 o'clock. Thanks for watching. Apologies for how long this update has been, but it's critical information, and we want you to understand the threats that are at hand. I'm Dave Jones with Storm Center Communications and GeoCollaborate. Thanks so much for watching this update. We'll talk to you again soon, later this afternoon.